In order, Monday, February 28th, 4 p.m. Roll call.
David Paradise.
Nicole Andrea.
Kirby Moyna.
Tom Marslick.
Sam Solars.
Jessica Boniwell.
Dan Reamer. Jared Bogey.
Discuss Wright County Annual Report.
Appreciate the opportunity this afternoon on what feels like a spring day to come down and talk about the annual report from the Sheriff's Office. My name is Lieutenant Jeremy Werkle. I'm assigned to the Patrol Division with the Sheriff's Office. I believe you guys got a digital copy maybe of the annual report, so
Should be in your packet.
I guess just a little disclaimer right off the beginning here. If every month I send out a snapshot of what the CFS has been for the city of Montrose. So the annual report if you've been keeping track of all those monthly emails I get, the numbers from those monthly reports might be different than what's actually represented in the annual report. And the simple explanation for that is when a call comes into the sheriff's office, they get assigned a code or a case type from the best guess from our dispatcher, and as the investigation continues, the case might get changed into something else, or it might be reflected when it's all said and done, reflected something different in the annual report. So, and then if you guys had an opportunity to look at it, are there any questions before we kind of dive into it and look at the meat and potatoes of some of the different graphs and stats and information in there? Okay, if not, I'll just kind of run through just a brief summary of what all the information means in here, and if somebody's got a question, feel free to yell at me and let me know what you have. So, first one I'll look at is kind of looks back at the different contracting history the city of Montrose has had with the sheriff's office. Goes back to 2012, and then what the estimated hourly cost is going to be up to 2022. The first graph we have is just a general 2021 activity. The Sheriff's Office responded to just over 2,700 calls for service in Montrose. 1,300 of those calls turned into a case report, which meant it was something substantial enough that our deputies had to do a report on it. So that's what that means. And you can see what we have called quality of life incidents, all the way from unwanted persons to alarms, suspicious activity, which is kind of the catch-all for everything, and then our civil calls. Talking county-wide, everything seems to be pretty proportionate to what we experience in other cities, but there's an unusually high number of civil calls in the area of Montrose, and I'm not sure exactly what the reason for that would be, but civil calls are anything from like custody disputes to I got a problem with my neighbor, the way they're cutting their grass, to all kinds of different things. So.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
All right, and then you can see the rest of the numbers there. I don't know if you want me to go through each one of them there, but if there's anything that catches anybody's attention.
A lot of animals.
And then if you flip to the next page here, regarding traffic type calls, a couple of traffic hazard calls we responded to. There were 11 DUIs in the actual city limits of Montrose. Parking complaints, accidents, snowbird citations, and then there were about 959 traffic stops that were conducted just by the Sheriff's Office in the city of Montrose. That number is a little bit high compared to a couple of the other cities when we get to some comparisons. Reason for that is Montrose is not only do you have your contract car in Montrose, but you're also on the edge of two areas for the county between the southwest and the southeast. So you've got a lot of cars that aren't necessarily assigned to Montrose, but they're passing through town, and that's gonna, you have more squad cars in town, you're gonna have more traffic stops.
Yeah, what's the, I'm trying to remember the numbers from our last meeting, but what is the ratio of tickets to traffic stops roughly? You know?
Off the top of my head, no. I could go back to the office and I could definitely send an email out there.
Yeah, because I mean, the deputy mentioned that in our last meeting, and I was very surprised with the low number of tickets that are written.
I
Not
wrote,
that, anybody needs a ticket, but
Right.
that's, traffic stops are a deterrent, and tickets are an even better deterrent to people speeding through.
And one thing to keep in mind, a lot of those traffic stops are gonna be for equipment violations. So we have a burnt out headlight or a tail light that's out, maybe a license plate infraction of some sort. So those are big, educational opportunities for us to kind of explain some of those things to people.
Sure.
And it's, you know, we're trying to build a good good rapport with citizens too, you know, so we're not gonna be out there giving everybody a ticket for the one
Right.
headlight.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
And then below that one, we've got the crime incidents for Montrose, which are some of our higher profile, more involved calls. One robbery, a couple of assaults, damage to property calls. Then we had 33, drug incidences that, involved the deputies conducting investigations into drug activity. On top of the next page there, you can kind of see the comparison from 2017 to 2021. All pretty consistent. 2020, of course, was an oddball year with COVID, and we saw some different numbers than what we were anticipating, but seems like Montrose has stayed pretty consistent over the last few years there with the number of calls.
The one thing that I see on here too is that the theft rate has dropped
Significant.
every year, and then significant drop last year. Do you have any idea why that could be? If it's people maybe locking their doors and cars better, or there's just more patrols out?
Oh, I think a big part of it is education. Just letting people know, lock your doors, lock your cars, don't leave stuff out in your driveway. Vehicle theft was a big one, and we'll see a spike sometimes. I mean, a couple of kids on one night can cause a spike in one of the cities if they're going around breaking into cars or looking for cars that are open. So I think education and our deputies just being out and sending that message out to different people when we stop and see them, and hey, remember to lock your doors at night and bring stuff into your garage and don't leave it out in the driveway. So
Yeah.
I mean, one thing I noticed on this graph as well is drugs have gone up a little bit. Is there anything that you guys as a department are working on that to help clean it up a little bit? I mean, it just seems to be, you know, last year looked like it was only about 20 or so incidents to 33 this past year.
sure, in kind of countywide, we've seen a little uptick in some of that kind of thing. So we're doing a lot of training with our deputies. Part of what you see is when we send more deputies to certain kinds of training, all of a sudden we'll see a spike because now deputies are more keyed in on, they're looking for certain things to aid in enforcement type situations. But to give you a good explanation as to why there's an increase, that's something we're seeing countywide. There's just a general increase in some drug activity for certain things. And your drug paraphernalia or marijuana pipe, some of that kind of stuff is gonna fall into this category too, so.
Is there anything we're doing countywide that to try and deter a lot of that activity going on right now, or anything that we can do as a city to help clean that up as well?
You know, I always go back on that education part of it, you know, and we do run certain TZD shifts that target different things, especially for drug activity. Our SIU unit, or narcotics unit, is very active. There's some drug court programs and stuff like that through the courthouse that people are involved in. You know, and DARE, I mean, those type of things, I mean, that all helps. I think every little bit adds to it and helps out, so.
Is there a specific drug right now that's more prevalent than others?
Marijuana's popular. We're seeing some overdoses with some fentanyl and stuff like that that's coming out of different areas, typically not homegrown. It's coming in from someplace else. So that's something that we're continuing to investigate.
I'm sure the wide open border doesn't help drug trafficking up I-35 either, you know?
And the other thing, you do have Highway 12 running through
Right.
town, you know, between the
Main
cities
highway.
and Wilmer, and you see activity on Highway 12 too, just like you would like up on 94 or something.
Yeah.
And then, since we brought up our special investigations unit, that next graph there shows the different kind of cases that they, excuse me, investigated. An agency assist, they were down here and conducted a warrant arrest, did a couple of search warrants, and then they had five cases regarding drugs in the city. A little bit more involved than what a patrol deputy would do. Those 5 cases probably don't have much to do with patrol, and that's why they end up on this graph. So that would be something that's separate or above what you saw on the other one. Then on the following page, we have our major crimes unit, where if you watch CSI at all on TV, that's kind of what they do, but they can't wrap it up in necessarily an hour. But they do come out for our major calls if there is fingerprints, photographs, more detailed photographs of a scene, DNA, photographs that they use our drones if we need some aerial pictures, which we typically would use on a serious car accident or something along those lines. Those are the people in our office that would come out and do that kind of stuff, so.
You're telling me Hollywood makes things look better than real life?
They do. Our cars don't show up in like a fancy Hummer with spinners on it or anything like that. Not helicopters, so, yeah. But you can see couple of stolen vehicles, thefts, robbery, domestic, and these are all be more serious type crimes that they needed to get involved with, so. Then you can see the 2021 city comparisons, and we use Delano and Rockford for comparisons. I don't know if there's any numbers there. The civil, again, jumps out at me. Delano, higher in juvenile complaints than Montrose. They have the high school over there, would generate some of that with the SRO and that type of thing.
Seems to have a double the amount of animal calls. Are those strictly more related to kind of a civil thing more than animal bites, or what are you seeing there?
Loose dog calls, that type of thing. We
Okay.
do
Barking
get quite a
dogs.
few of those. There's been some habitual barking dog complaints that we've been dealing with, just I can remember just from the top of my head here, so, yeah.
Yeah, we win the keepy dog in the civil part of it. Huh?
Yeah.
Well, if you have to win a category, that's not a terrible one to win.
Yeah, I'd rather win that category.
Yeah. And then you can see how the traffic stops there compare with Delano and Rockford as well. Kind of right in the middle. And then the next one, we break the calls for service down by time of day. So the important part, I think, to take out of this one is the areas that you have your contract car in town and the coverage part of it there. So we try to put somebody in town when you're getting most of your calls. And if by looking at that graph, you can see that pretty much spot on with the areas of coverage that you have right now. So and that doesn't include our area cars that are coming through town, of course, and that type of thing. But. And then right below that, Tuesday seems to be a popular day to call the sheriff's office for some
Apparently.
reason. And, I believe I had the same question in Delano, and I don't have a good answer for that. I would think it would have been like a Friday or a Saturday
Or a Monday
something
even,
like that, but to have most of the calls coming in on a Tuesday, I just don't have an explanation. So.
Friday's pretty.
Yeah, Friday's the lowest one.
Yeah. That's not- yep.
Saturday's right there. Just one Sunday.
And then on the back, just have the email contacts for the command staff up at the sheriff's office, should you ever need those or have a need to have a question answered or anything like that. So. Any questions from me about any of this or the sheriff's office in general?
I just have one on doing a ride along with your deputies that are in town here. What process will we need to do so that we can get on there with them? And
If you have my contact information, just send me an email when you think you'd want to do one, and I can make that happen.
perfect.
Yep.
The only thing I have is just that, now when the weather starts getting a little better and warmer out, just if they could make sure that when they're driving through town, even the little side roads to go through and say hi to the kids or the people in town too, because that was something that I had heard in the last couple of years, is that some of the smaller side roads that they're like, we don't ever see a cop drive down this road. We'd like to wave at them or see them, or the kids could see them around here, so.
Sure, yeah. They, I know they carry a good supply of stickers and some different things, and that's one of the expectations is that they're stopping out there. They see kids at the park or anything like that they're out playing basketball or something, stop out and say hi when.
I did see that last year too, out here at Vets Park, where there was 2 deputies that were out there playing basketball with some of the kids, so.
Good. Try to keep them off of TikTok if at all possible, but, we enjoy them to stop out there.
Oh, come on, the people love that. They go on, the cops on TikTok.
Oh, boy. Also questions? Thank you. Thank you for your time. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
All right, on to business. Resolution 2022-09.
So the two resolutions that are before you tonight are just housekeeping things from the ones that we've approved. Steve informed us that we need to pass resolutions, so it's just kind of housekeeping for that.
I'll make a motion that we, pass resolution 2022-09.
Second.
I'll second.
Further discussion on the motion? Mr. Paradise.
Aye.
Mr. Solars.
Aye.
Ms. Andrioff.
Aye.
Mr. Marslick.
Aye.
And I'll vote yes, motion passes 5-0. I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2022-10.
I'll second it.
Further discussion on the motion? I'll vote yes, Ms. Andrioff.
Aye.
Mr. Paradise.
Aye.
Mr. Marslick.
Aye.
Mr. Solars.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Compost site discussion.
Mayor and council, we hired a guy last year for $13, had it open 12 hours a week. Any thoughts? What you want to do?
Well, I think if that's the route we want to go again, I don't think we'll get anybody to sit there for $13 an hour. And of course, we saw that with the mowing last year as well, that we're only paying $13, $14 an hour. People don't want to go sit there for that when you could go to McDonald's and make 18 or 19 for
Right.
serving some french fries. I don't know, I wanted this on here too, just so that we could talk about what our plan is for the compost site for this year. Do we want to have somebody sit out there again? Do we want to try opening it up? Do we want to try a different idea of how we keep it so that we don't have it being misused? So if anybody has ideas.
You can change the hours if you want to be open more on Saturday. And you pay enough to somebody that would want to do that. But if you don't, we end up with logs and loads of brush and stuff that we can't handle because we have a day to burn it. If it takes longer than a day, city gets turned in and everybody gets yelled at.
The trail cameras, did you find that most of the dumping was being dumped at night, or was it being dumped?
Late in the day after city hours or before. And all the vehicles we got, I have a bunch of pictures here. All the vehicles we got the license number off a bunch of them, but nobody would do anything about it. I mean, if they could've gave me a phone number, I could've called them and said, well, come and get your stuff. Didn't happen, so they didn't wanna tell us who they were.
Should have asked that about the sheriff.
Yeah, I don't think they can just run points for,
Yeah, they'd go after them.
they could go after them, particularly if they dump outside the gate, then that's definitely illegal dumping.
But if they're dumping stuff that's not supposed to be in there, they can't do anything about that?
Because it's a dump site, I mean, nobody's monitoring it, so anybody can come in and, I don't know why they won't go after them, but.
I mean, I agree it shouldn't be open, after, just say even 8 o'clock at night, because nothing good happens after dark.
Right.
But I don't know, what do we do if we can't get somebody to sit out there for 3 hours Tuesday and Thursday and 7 hours on Saturday, or 6 hours on Saturday? That's kind of where my thoughts are at.
Then you gotta make a decision what you wanna do.
Was there, do we know by chance what days were utilized the most? As far as, was it Tuesday or Thursday or Saturday you saw more people come through?
All days they had a lot of people, but Saturdays appeared to have more. and more complaints come out of Saturday because we weren't open long enough or early enough.
Yeah, I know that the couple Saturdays that I had sat out at the compost site in the fall that, I mean, it was pretty steady traffic to the point of there were times where it was like, if I wanted to write down the license plate numbers, you'd have to get them when they went out because you missed it when they went in because there was just so many cars in a row. So,
Would it make more sense for us to find somebody to work that Saturday shift, the longer hours? And if possible during the week, if somebody had the time to do it, they'd call up City Hall and Parks Department could meet, or, Public Works could meet them out there to open it up for them.
Right,
That way
we've
we're
done
not-
that. I mean, somebody missed the dates or whatever, we'll go open it up for them. We don't want to do it regularly, but, and some people think we do that. Every time they call, we're gonna open it. So,
Do you have any thoughts, Danny?
It's such a, it's a graded shade area there, because if you open it up nonstop, it will be illegal dumping, no doubt. And it will cost you guys a lot of money. I mean, I ran into people in Waverly, oh, you guys got a great compost site over there. Wait a minute, you live in Waverly. Well, it's because it's open 24/7. But if you want to hire somebody, they're not always going to make it either, so what do you do when they don't want to come in? Do you want a public works guy sitting out there after hours?
We ran into that a couple times last
We
year.
did run into that a couple times last year. And there's even a few times I talked to the guys where they were coming in so fast that they weren't even stopping for the guy at the trip pickup. Like, they literally had to get out and go and say, hey, are you from town? You know, the other problem is I've been seeing a lot of this summer is like these contractors come in, they do like 5 tree trimmings at yards, and they wanna dump their trailer fulls out there. And they get, they get argumentative because, well, it's somebody that lives in town, but I go, you do it for a service though, like you're supposed to get rid of it, we still would have to get rid of it, so. I don't know, I mean, my suggestion is I would try to do what you did last year, and I guess we'll just work out filling in the spots. I think it kept the amount down, right, Wayne? I mean, you saw it.
we only burned like twice last year. Both times it got turned into the DNR.
Yeah,
And there isn't a very big pile out there right now. In the previous years, I mean, we were gigantic pile.
Yeah, it's not very big.
No matter when we burned, next day it was a gigantic pile again.
we also had a really dry year last year, you guys remember, John? Watering ban, stuff like that, so we couldn't really burn it either, but most towns are doing, around here, like I live in Hour Lake, they do what we did last year, 2 days a week, on a Saturday, you got a certain time, and that's it. And you have to bring your driver's license and your water bill out there, otherwise they don't even let you in the gate. But I would suggest keep doing that, but like if it's a Saturday and the guy doesn't work or he calls in sick, I don't know what you're gonna do. I mean, you'd have to force one of the public works guys, or somebody would have to volunteer to step up. And that's something that all depends upon what the council wants to do there. I mean, we could come in and do rounds Saturday morning and open the gate, but we got rounds to do. And, I'm not saying the public works guys are gonna be in favor of, after they're done with rounds, sitting there another 4 hours, but
Could try for 2 people, rotate them. That might work a little better, or they wouldn't have to work every weekend.
Yeah, what kind of hourly wage would you suggest?
That's what I was, yeah.
That's a hard
Yeah.
to go by. You know, $15 an hour isn't much. $20 isn't that much, you know.
Well, I think we have to take a look at what it costs us to clean it up.
Right,
So $20 an hour may not,
be that bad, correct.
Right.
and obviously the higher you go, the more hands will go up that wanna do it. And maybe you get some of your residents that have been in town for a long time that have, you know, like a Billy Babbitt's, I'm just saying somebody like Billy would
Be
maybe
good, yeah. Somebody
throw
like
his hat
that.
in the ring, or,
I do know there was one lady last year that when I was out there watching it, she asked me, you know, if we're gonna hire again next year for it, she'd be interested in it, so. Hopefully she still lives in town so we can, you know, she can apply for it, but yeah, I think we have to put it out there to see what we get for a response, and then we can make our decision on that as far as
Yeah,
what
and
we're gonna do
kinda,
with
if
it.
you get two people, rotate them. One can't come, the other one might be able to, I mean,
Yeah, I
cover all
think-
the spots.
I think part of that would be tough too, if you were already looking for a part-time job, say 12 hours a week, and then it's, one week you get 6 hours, but the next week you get different 6 hours. I think we'd have less interest, but I think we could work some of that in with, depending on how the next discussion goes. Maybe that could be something added on to one of those
Summer
duties
helpers.
as well, yeah.
But I can guarantee you there ain't gonna be a cure-all answer. You're gonna still have complaints on the way
Yeah.
we're doing it.
Right.
I mean, I know years back, there was a key program and that got to be a, I don't think you ever wanna go back to that, but
No,
They don't return them,
copies and
No.
then you got illegal dumping again,
yeah,
so.
no.
Yeah, the only other suggestion anybody's ever brought up from around town that I've talked to is about getting a key card access, but that was the same type of deal, is that sure, you could do it and you pay the whatever, $50,000-$60,000 to get it all set up, and who knows how much to get the cards to everybody. But then then we have to have a whole program downloaded on the system. We have to train somebody in on how to use the system, and
and then if you got a key card, they can still come in whenever and dump whatever they want.
I mean, you know who's using the key card, but like, they could have their neighbor
Right. Borrow their key card
Yep.
to
or
somebody
the
else.
guy that's out of the town
Yep.
city limits, borrow the card and throw in there. It's the best way I suggest to do it is man the gate.
I would think the key card system would be cost prohibitive.
Yeah,
At this point, yeah.
yep. It wouldn't save you anything, cause they're gonna,
If we get a lot bigger, but not now.
So what hours are we suggesting?
What did we do last?
last year was from 10 to 2
On
on
Saturdays?
Saturdays.
Maybe we could do a little longer on Saturdays?
A little longer, and 48 on Tuesdays, 48 on Thursdays. 12 hours a week.
yeah, there wasn't, when I was out there, even the couple of times that I'd got out there by 9:30, there's not anybody, it was a lot slower in that 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock range. But when you got to 12, 1, 1:30, it was like, that's when the blitz came.
Right, I
So,
mean, I was thinking probably in the afternoon hours is when people are gonna
I
be
mean, I guess
most
if you could
likely-
get someone to sit out there from, say, 10 to 4 even,
10 to
or
6
11 to
even,
4,
yeah.
then it would be more of that midday afternoon.
I would think most people wouldn't start mowing their lawns until, 10 o'clock in the morning anyway.
Up at 4 in the morning mowing their lawns so they can get to
Yeah.
the compost site by the time it opens.
That's like when we have 111 football calls.
I don't know, my neighborhood's like a chain reaction. One person will get up and do it at 8 a.m. and then all of a sudden 8:30 is the second one, 9 o'clock's the third one, and all of a sudden 9:30, everybody's mowing their lawn and around the block, so.
Okay. Well, I think us as staff, probably do a little research on wages and kind of get some information. Maybe we can bring it to the March meeting and talk a little bit more about it. And nail down some hours. Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to get feedback from the community as well, just so we can not lock down as much of the best hours as possible for them.
Another thing we could kind of push a little bit more would be Randy's yard waste. Randy in the public.
And there is that, I mean, the pushback on that is extra fee for
they have
everybody,
to
but
pay for
I mean,
that.
it is available, yes.
It is
And
available, yes. It's
It's
not the cure-all, but
not the cure-all, but, it is.
People just wanna dump their grass, they could order the bucket for 5 months out of the year and pay for it.
True.
And if we get a lot of feedback that people want to do that, I think we should go back to Randy's and have a discussion with them on what that would look like.
By chance, could we get that put out on like the city's Facebook page? I know we have a Nextdoor page, but Nextdoor's not really as active, I don't think, as Facebook, so. maybe
About the
just-
compost site, like what kind of hours people would like to see?
Yeah, like Tuesday and Thursday, that's pretty
think
good
that's
time,
that.
4 to 8, but maybe Saturday, if people would like to see like a 11 to 3, or, I don't know how many hours we're looking at somebody in general, to be sitting out there for, if we're looking for 12 hours, and maybe 11 to 3, or 10 to 2, or 12 to 4, what people think would be the best, and I don't know if we can put something in there too, or even in the newsletter would be too late, but something about, if people are interested in the yard waste buckets, that they could let the city know somehow. I don't know how to word that one,
Yeah, might be have to have a separate post just about just that.
yeah.
I mean, I'd rather see 3 hours on Tuesday and Thursday and add the 2 hours to Saturday.
Yeah, it just seems like Saturday, when I would answer, calls about that, it would mostly be people wanting more hours on Saturdays, on the weekends.
I don't know how busy it was we'd have to ask the previous guy how busy in the middle of summer it was on the Saturdays, but, the fall, it was pretty busy, just because you got the final cleanup that people are doing, so.
I think he was, fairly busy most of the
Fairly
time.
busy all the time, I think, yeah.
But just reminds you, it's a Saturday, you go 11 to 5, and you pay $13 an hour. I don't think you're gonna have very many applications. No one wants to
Have their waste
Saturday
their
sit
Saturday
at a
afternoon.
compost site
Yeah.
gate.
Yeah.
So, Saturdays are precious to a lot of people, so you might have to jump the pay substantially the longer in the day you go.
I would expect to not, I wouldn't necessarily, if I was looking for a part-time job, I wouldn't want to sit out there past probably 3. I would say, just so that you have the evening that you could do stuff too, but that would just be my thoughts.
Well, we could do like 9 to 3 and have it open those 6 hours and then cut an hour from, Tuesday and Thursday.
Yeah,
Have it only
if-
open until like 7.
Then you're encouraging people to start mowing their lawns at 8 o'clock. We're gonna be dealing with that,
Hey, you can start making noise at 7 a.m. if you want.
This is right, yep, that's in the ordinance.
Usually your grass is too wet, it clumps up.
Yeah, but there's a big difference between, the law and doing the right thing.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
but
right,
I
sure.
think the earlier times would be for people who mow on like Thursday or Friday. They get it all together, they do
they're
all
all
their
ready to
trimming,
go.
and then they bring it in on. I would just like to see a survey of a variation of times, just of what people would think.
I'll have
So,
Christie put something out.
and hopefully you get a couple hundred responses, and I hope. Probably not, but
Maybe we'll get some.
the more responses we get, the better that we're gonna be able to, satisfy the needs of everybody. Won't be perfect, but it'll be the best solution.
Yeah, it's like pick the 12 hours you'd like to see,
Yeah, we can do that.
Lawn mowing service discussion.
Lawn mowing services, I, had 4 companies bid it out. And the price ranges are all over the place. The 4th one didn't bid it because they couldn't see through the snow to see what the landscape looked like, so. They're hoping maybe to do it next year if it goes. And bid out 83.51 acres of our 111, and the city's gonna keep 30.7. Plus the wastewater plant isn't included on that 30 plus. We usually have 2 summer kids, and the last ones we were paying $13 an hour. But they came and went as they pleased, and our guys ended up mowing. On that sheet, I gave you that sheet that kind of shows what it costs to have our guys out there doing it per hour compared to summer kids. And we take the wage up from 15 to 20. I think it's pretty expensive to have 2 people out there 25 weeks mowing, that's $40,000. Plus your mowers and all the maintenance and the blades and the upkeep. And then our guys still have to mow the other parts. And if they don't get done, sometimes if we have summer help, we have to go help them finish the job that they started and didn't get done.
Yeah, I think actually you're probably gonna have to bump that number up to 20. I don't think you get anybody for $15.
No. See, if you go to 20 and you do the 25 weeks, that's 40,000,
Yeah,
plus the 16,
When does the 25 weeks start and end?
whenever it gets nice and, first time you have to mow, kind of
Grass starts
varies,
growing.
several weeks out of the year, could have a wet spring. Snow, it might be a cold spring, and then the fall goes longer, shorter. But I had them bid it by the week, some of them, one person bid it by the week, and the other ones just bid it as a whole number. But I broke them down per week. If we're having a drought again, they don't need to mow. I mean, I don't feel we should have to mow them either, or pay them either. But if it's their livelihood, we might have to make a deal with them somehow or the other.
So if we have summer help and there's a drought, is there other things for those people to do during the day?
There is, I mean, there's different things that can be painted, but if our guys aren't doing all that mowing, they can do all that. Like in the parks, we need to change all the, wood chips around all the swings and stuff and upgrade some of that. We have 2 swing sets to put in coming up. But also, they're coming in with their own mowers, their own trimmers. We have no maintenance cause we have nothing.
I was talking to the park supervisor at Buffalo today, kind of about this type deal.
Yep.
He said he usually meets with the MRPA, and he was saying that a lot of cities were going towards kind of contracting out some work like this.
Yeah.
Nobody can find help that wants to work all summer. They want to work this week, that week, and take the month off and then come back.
Why did we keep all 30 of those acres? I know like the wastewater and stuff like that, but,
Because 87 or 83 acres is a lot of acres.
yep.
I mean, if a guy's out mowing other lawns, I mean, that kind of breaks into his whole operation. I mean, he'd have to make good money. But most of the parks we kept are, around the city, like the park here, City Hall, Vets Park. They're all smaller and one guy could go out and mow them. The wastewater plant usually takes 2 guys.
well, I mean, if you look at the lowest bid on here and then you figure 40 grand for summer help, you're down to $13,000.
You're gonna spend that on mowers and oil, blades.
Yeah, that's I mean, what does one mower cost?
I've got it right, it's on that one sheet, didn't I put it on there?
Oh, yeah, that's
It's on
right.
the last page.
Yeah, so.
Yeah,
Or 2.
they're 26,000.
Yeah, so
Ours they're worth about 20 now. Then we have that wide area mower, it's worth 20 or 14 to 19,000. And the upgrade 16.
And were we planning on mowing the, regional park area where the sunflowers were? Was that part of
That's
the bid?
contracted.
Okay.
That's part of it. They would get that. And we'd stay out of what's her name's hair and,
But it wouldn't have to be mowed, I think is what,
It's kind
no,
of,
that wouldn't have to be all that, no.
yeah,
I took off a bunch of that
okay,
when I figured that.
got it. That was my, just
Yeah,
my
yeah.
question on how we got the bid, just to make sure if we had to readjust that, cause I don't
They-
feel that area needs
Yeah, they
to,
don't need to mow what
Yeah.
you can't mow.
What do you think? Do you think we should try and find a service or go with summer help if we can find them?
Well, the service would help us guys out a lot, no doubt. Summer help, the problem with summer help is you can find somebody to mow for $12, $13 an hour. As soon as you hand them that weed whip, they're getting in their car and they're going home.
They don't-
That's the problem. The weed whipping, the stuff where you have to sweat, during when it's 100 degrees. So, I mean, I don't know how long of a contract you have to go in, is this year to year on here?
Yep.
So you can try them 1 year, and if it doesn't work out, I mean, if we're babysitting these guys too much too, you know, I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty sure they're professionals, they'll figure it out after the first couple mows, but,
They've all kind of went out and looked at the parks, and actually the lowest bidder guy lives out in Breckenridge out there by E-Town. And he's been around and looked at everything, so.
Yeah.
we'll never not have to mow ourselves somewhat.
Yeah.
So, to take some of the burden off would be great, but I mean, I don't know, I started as a mowing guy 20 years ago, so I know a lot of towns are bidding it out. I think it's worth a try, and if it doesn't go well this year, I don't know, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it sure looks like a cost-saving measure to me, you know?
We got a pretty busy summer plan with the downtown
You're
reconstruction.
right, and the guys are gonna be busy.
I would like to
throwing down that
see
water.
our public works guys
Right.
focused on where they need to be focused on, rather than mowing a
Mowing.
couple fields.
Yeah, good point. Totally agree. Yeah.
You know, the numbers look high, but if you break it down to who mows and how many times they mow and all the mowing they do.
Now,
know-
some of the bids that you have on here, you said that they just gave you a full year bid.
Yes,
Okay, so do they break it down at all, and like how many services that would be for you, or is that
they
just,
were all based on 25 to 28 times.
okay? And let's just say we run into a drought,
Yep.
we're gonna talk with these companies about
Right,
this stuff
and they
before we
have
sign
to-
anything?
Mow and trim once a week. All, that whole area.
so I got a question for you, Wayne. I wasn't part of the bidding process, but like this one, bidded by the week, what if we go like 3 weeks there where we don't need to be mow anything? Do we still have to pay him for that week?
He bid it by the week, so he's not mowing that week. And I kinda mentioned that to him too, if there's a drought.
I know that when I did landscaping, depending on what the contract was, unless you touched a blade down, you didn't get paid for that job.
That week, yeah.
So you would have to go find something else to do in that time frame to get paid.
Yep.
So,
I kinda explained that to him.
I mean, as long as we have that provision in there too, with any of the contractors that we have here, I think that makes sense. Cause I don't wanna get to a point where, again, we have to babysit them,
Yep,
and we're still getting charged, but nothing's getting done.
right, and then the dry summer and 2 months are dry and they didn't have to mow it all. You know,
well, I guess I'd like to see that, we would go with the first bid, I guess would be my one, and then
Okay.
especially with, not just that it's lower, but it's also local.
right.
So we'll get in contact with him and then probably bring it for formal approval at the March meeting.
Acknowledgements?
I would like to acknowledge Mr. Wayne McCormick for his 16 years of service here at the city and thank him for all of his hard work and wish him luck and a good retirement and
Thank
thank you for everything.
Yes, thanks, Wayne.
Thank you.
Wayne,
Thank you, Wayne.
Yeah, thanks, Wayne. Any other ones?
Well, I'd like to acknowledge Danny for stepping up and considering, taking over that responsibility.
Thank you.
He still hasn't said no, so.
Upcoming meetings, planning and zoning, Wednesday, March 9th, regular city council, March 14th, and EDA, March 15th at noon. I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Mr. Solars.
Aye.
Mr. Marslick.
Aye.
How about yes? Mr. Paradise?
Aye.
Ms. Andrioff.
Yes.
Motion passes, we're adjourned.
Jared, before I forget, lady out on Aspen, towards the end of Aspen. She's got a couple culverts. Her name is Sarah. And she has all kinds of Bolton and Mink papers. And she talked with LGI. There's a ditch and some culverts, and when the snow goes, she'd like to talk to somebody before they get to do any building back there.
Okay.
Because they propose putting the silt fence on her property.